Hey guys, what's going on? Well, I'm here in the Oval Office. It's Saturday and I don't have any weddings today or anything, so I thought, well, it'd be a perfect day to just kind of clean up the Oval Office and go through some things. And I actually went through some papers a little while ago and I found some old contracts and some old wedding planning forms from 2005. And it's pretty neat because I remember looking back at some of those brides and grooms planning forms, and I remember those brides and grooms. I know at least a couple of them have gotten divorced since then or remarried. So anyway, I don't think I'm going to need their contact information anymore, or their forms now, but pretty interesting to find. And I thought that was pretty neat. You just never know what you're going to find whenever you're cleaning out your office or really any room in your house. You'll be pretty surprised sometimes if you just start going through boxes and stuff. So anyway, here's what I wanted to talk about in this particular video. We're going to talk about the DJ's role in wedding reception planning. Now, before we get into that, let me issue a disclaimer, okay? What I'm going to be talking about in this particular video, or in any of my videos, basically I'm just giving you some ideas, just kind of telling you what works for me and what has worked for me over the last 20 years. I'm not saying that your way's wrong or anything like that. For example, I know that there are a lot of DJs who actually just handle the music, and they hire somebody separate to handle the emceeing, which I know is very common in Canada. It's very common there to have somebody to do the music while somebody else handles the emceeing and somebody else handles the planning, which is all well and good. I mean, if that's what works out well for you and that's what works the best and what your clients like, that's all well and good. I mean, I'm just going to give you the ideas that have worked well for me, and hopefully you'll get some nuggets from that. So really, that's what we're trying to do here. Also, I want to mention that if you're a bride and groom, maybe you're just stumbled on this video, you're looking for some ideas on planning a wedding reception and wondering what a DJ does. Like I said, this will give you some nuggets and kind of give you a better understanding of why it's important to hire a professional wedding DJ. So I think you'll get something out of it as well. And if you're a DJ, whether you're a newbie starting out or maybe you're a veteran who's been doing this longer than I have, I'm pretty sure that you'll get some nuggets from it too. So anyway, the last thing I want to mention before we get into the video is I just want to mention that if you guys can do me a favor, if you can hit the like and subscribe button on these videos, comment, and be sure and spread the word here. We're trying to get as many people as we can to start watching the videos, and we think we've got a lot of great content here to help out DJs. We've got content here going all the way back to 2008, so be sure and like and subscribe, and be sure and share our videos too. We're looking for you to help us get the word out, and that's what we're trying to do. So we certainly do appreciate that. It doesn't cost anything for you to just like and subscribe and add a comment here or there or whatever, and helps us to get the word out to more people. Alrighty, with that said, let's go ahead and get into this now. When it comes to planning a wedding reception from the DJ's point of view, what all does that mean? Well, it's a common misconception that DJs basically do just that. They think that we just handle music. We just come to a wedding reception, we set up our equipment, play music for a few hours, break down, and then leave. And what I normally tell brides and grooms about that is, yeah, there are some DJs that will do that, but those are usually the lower priced DJs, and they'll give you basically the same service you get if you took an iPad and hooked up to Spotify and just hooked it up to 2 speakers and just let it roll. You're not going to really be getting any better service than that. So, if you hire one of those cheaper DJs like that. But now, when it comes to the DJ's role, as far as your wedding reception and what a professional wedding DJ will do, I like to compare that to flight attendants, because flight attendants are often actually, their duties are often misunderstood as well. A lot of people think that flight attendants, whether you fly, in the United States or around the world, you think maybe that the flight attendants might just be the people who are just waitresses in the sky. All they do is they just, roll the drink cart down the aisle there and give you your drinks and maybe give you your peanuts or whatever. Maybe a meal here or there or whatever like that. But, a flight attendant, if you ever researched it, they do a lot more than that. They're actually trained in safety, on how to get people out of that plane. If there's an emergency, they're trained in CPR and how to use a defibrillator in case there's a medical emergency. They're also trained in self-defense tactics in case a terrorist takes over. I mean, there's a lot of things that flight attendants do that, well, we hope we never see. But really all we ever do see is just them, rolling the drink cart up and down the aisle, and a lot of people think that's all they do. Well, a lot of people think that we just handle music when it comes to just being a mobile DJ. And again, that's not that's not what we do. That's music is only one part of it. Now, when it does come to planning a wedding reception, let me just explain to you what our role is as far as what we do at SNDJ Entertainment and the way that I normally do that. Okay, now let's start with the consultation. Now, when I first meet with the bride and groom, whether it's over Zoom or maybe it's a meeting at Starbucks or something like that, I always like to find out about them. I want to find out their story, like how they met, how they got engaged, the proposal story, all that stuff. And that always helps me out because if I'm going to be working with them, I want to get to know them and get to know their backstory. After all, I'm going to be representing them at their wedding reception, so I want to make sure I know as much about them as I possibly can. And then we'll talk about a sequence of events. We'll talk about the wedding packages and help them pick out a package that works out best for them. And then at that point, I'll answer any questions they have. And let's say that they've already decided they want to go ahead and hire me for their wedding. Then what I'll do at that point is we'll sign the contract, collect their retainer fee, and then I'll send them a copy of our reception planning guide, which is a guide that I put together, which includes a lot of helpful tips and suggestions, and it's also got the sequence of events that we went over at their consultation and things like that. But I've actually had a lot of brides and grooms tell me that guide in itself has helped them, relieve them of a lot of stress, because it is a step-by-step guide. It's got a lot of tips and suggestions, and they told me that I need to release that as a book. I need to publish it as a book. I don't know. I really haven't thought about that, but I am thinking about doing a video version of that reception planning guide. So I might be doing that here before too long. But I don't know. Maybe I'll end up publishing it at some point. We'll see. Anyway, after all that's done, and let's say that we move ahead now to about a month before their wedding, it's time for them to send their forms back. And I've given them the forms they need: a reception planning form, also a ceremony planning form if I'm doing their ceremony, and that includes all their music, all their information they want, like what events they want, like bouquet throw, garter toss, wedding party introductions, spotlight dances, pretty much everything that would go into a wedding reception. And they could fill those forms out online, or they could actually email them back to me if they want to do that, or print them out and give them to me as a paper copy. I'll let them do what really works out best for them. And so that's what we do. But now once I get those forms back, it's time for me to go to work on putting everything together on a written planner on a sequence of events. And I'll type everything up, a detailed sequence of events with their wedding party introductions and everything that they want right there on the planner. All their spotlight dances, their toast and cake cutting, all that stuff. It's all listed there on the planner. And if I'm doing their ceremony music will be listed as well. At that point, I'll then send it to back to the bride and groom and let them look it over and make sure everything's how they want it. They can make any changes that they need to. And once they've made changes and once they've given me their final approval that everything is the way that they want it, at that point, I will then send it out to their other vendors, like their photographer, their caterers, and if they have a wedding planner, I'll send it to them as well, just so they'll have a copy of it. But I always like to make sure that that anybody that they want to have a copy of that planner will have a copy of it. And I send them a nice email saying I'm the DJ and the reception entertainment planner for Joe and Susie's wedding coming up on Saturday, and and if you have any questions, feel free to get back in touch with me. And so they've got a copy of it days before the wedding reception actually happens. So that way everybody's on the same page. Now, wedding day, what happens on that day? Well, I'm usually up that morning, and I'm usually here in the Oval Office. I'm on my computer early that morning, going over last-minute information, making sure that all their music is already in the computer and everything else, which I've already done about 2 or 3 times before. I mean, by the time I get to the wedding, I've actually checked on both of my computers. I've probably verified that I've got every song that they want at least 4 or 5 times. And all 3 of my computers, I've got one main computer and 2 backups that I use, so I make sure that all the music's there. And I double-check that on the morning of the wedding. Then I try to arrive at the venue at least 2 to 3 hours ahead of time, and that way I can go ahead and get set up and take time getting set up and all that good stuff. But I like to have all the music and everything ready to go by at least 30 to 40 minutes before the guests first walk in. And that's regardless of whether I'm doing the ceremony or the reception. Let's say I'm doing the ceremony, and their ceremony is going to be held outside at that same venue. I've got 2 separate sound systems set up for that. Then I like to be set up at least 30 to 40 minutes ahead of time, and and have background music going by that time so people can hear music as they're walking in. And it's pretty much the same thing for the reception. Now, once the ceremony is complete, and the bride and groom are out having their pictures, I'll usually welcome all the guests in. I'll get on the microphone, introduce myself to them, to their guests, and invite them to socialize. And I always tell my brides and grooms to make sure that they take all the time that they need when it comes to their pictures. And this goes back to what we talked about in our last video last week about sequence of events versus wedding timelines. That's why I don't do a timeline, saying that, we're going to do the wedding party introductions this time, and this time, because I don't want to stress my brides and grooms out or the photographer out. So basically what I tell them is you need to take your time getting your pictures made. Don't worry about any times or anything like that. I will entertain your guests while you're taking your time getting your pictures done. So I think it's very important that our brides and grooms get their pictures done and make sure that they get all their pictures done and not have to worry about the guests being bored or anything like that. So anyway, after we do all that, normally what will happen is that we'll just follow everything that's on the planner. You know, we got their spotlight dances listed there. We got you know, the dinner, the toast, the cake cutting. Everything is listed. And my number one rule is that I don't announce anything until I personally check with the bride and groom and the other vendors to make sure that they're ready. And once I verify that everybody's ready, then that's when we'll go ahead and announce you know, the next event coming up on the planner. You know, for example, let's say that it's getting close to the end of dinner time, and you know, we're going to be doing the toast and the cake cutting after dinner. Well, when it looks like most people are finished eating, I'll go to the bride and groom and say, hey, bride and groom, looks like most people are finished eating. Do you want to do your toast and cake cutting in about 10 minutes? And the bride and groom will say, yeah, that'll be good. You know, that way I give the bride time to go run to the bathroom if she needs to go, or whatever the situation may be. But at that point, I'll then go to their photographer and say, okay, here's a heads up. We're going to be doing the toast and the cake cutting in about 10 minutes. And then I'll usually get on the microphone and let the guests know that we're going to be doing the toast and the cake cutting in about 10 minutes. So if they haven't gotten their drinks ready, they need to go ahead and do that at that time. So that's usually how that works, and I make sure, you know, like I said, that I don't announce anything until I've verified and checked with everybody. And then at the end of that 10-minute period, I'll double check again with the bride and groom to make sure that they're ready, as well as the other vendors, just in case, you know, the photographer needs to switch out a cartridge or something like that. So again, I don't announce anything or do anything until I personally check with the bride and groom and the other vendors to make sure that they're ready before I announce it. And that's the only way that I know 100% that I'm doing what the bride and groom want. Now, a common question that I've seen on the DJ Idea Sharing Facebook page and some other Idea Sharing Facebook pages is, you know, DJs will talk about, well, what if somebody comes up to you saying, you know, the bride and groom want to change this or do that, or, you know, what do you do in that situation? Well, my rule is very simple. We don't change anything unless I've talked to the bride and groom. So if somebody comes up to me saying the bride and groom want to change this, or they want to add this in, or we're going to do this or that, that's all well and good. I'm going to go talk to the bride and groom before I actually do that, though, just to double check and make sure. And believe it or not, I have had people come up to the DJ table and say stuff like that. Say, you know, the bride and groom, you know, want to change this or they want to change that or something like that. And then when I go check with the bride, I find out she didn't want to change that. So, you know, if I'd gone ahead and changed something like that, I could have had a very ticked off bride and groom. So I don't want to, you know, do that. So like I said, if anybody comes up to me, you know, I'll make sure that I always verify with the bride and groom. You know, nothing gets changed or altered on the planner unless I personally talk to the bride and groom myself. And that's the only way that I know that I'm doing what the bride and groom want me to do. So anyway, that's kind of it in a nutshell. You know, like I said, you know, not only is my responsibility, you know, just playing the music, but also handling the MC skills, but it's also directing the reception, making sure everybody, you know, is where they need to be, and making sure that everything runs smoothly, and that's how that works. And I've had so many brides and grooms tell me that that's one of the main reasons that they like to hire me, because not a lot of DJs offer that. So that might just be something you may want to think about and, you know, consider. Maybe if you're into the DJ business, or maybe thinking about getting into weddings or something like that. So anyway, I hope this video has been helpful. And once again, please like and subscribe to my channel, and let's try to get the word out so we can get more subscribers. And we'll be actually posting more content, hopefully on a weekly basis, so I can get some more vlogs out. And if you guys have any ideas, or you got something you want me to talk about, or you have a question, just feel free to send me a private email. My email address is right there on the screen, and I'll be glad to respond to you and answer you in a future video. Alrighty, so until next time, practice and enjoy.